Hey everybody, and welcome to Bevan's Builds. I'm Daryl, and today's video is going to be about the various methods you can use to finish the interior of your pole barn. I see a lot of videos about people showing you how they did their pole barn or what they do for their pole barn, but I've never seen anybody physically discuss all the different methods you can actually use. So today we're going to cover that here. First thing I want to show, as I have been trying to keep progress and status updates as far as the build progress of my particular pole barn, I went with the first method that I'm going to discuss, which is framing flush against the front of the post, as you can see here. And I framed all the way around that way, and trying not to move the camera too fast, I framed all the way down this wall. The reason I've skipped the window sections, as you can see, is because I was doing what was easiest first. Not that this is going to be that difficult to frame in, but I do have to frame around the window so that way I can finish work around the window, so when it's done, it looks more complete and nice. But again, like I said, this method that I'm using, and I'll show you as you look on down the wall, I am finishing it with the surface of the stud. And now that I've shown you how I'm physically finishing the building, which again you can see here right next to me, I want to discuss the other methods you can use for finishing the interior walls of your pole barn. Now first I want to discuss the fact of the reason that I went this way. I just used 2x4s. I could have used 2x6s as it would have gave me more strength. But the first thing you have to keep in mind when you're finishing the inside of a pole barn is that anything that you're doing on the inside is not a structural portion of the building. Now mind you, I'm a little bit on the overkill side when I do stuff. So as you'll see, I have a stud on either side of the post. Just like you can see here, I got a stud on either side of the post. And what it is because when I build things, it's just, I'm kind of old school and I like to build a wall and stand it up and just nail it. Typically what you would do though is you would just put a board on top and a 2x4 on the bottom. You would nail your 2x4s together, and then you would set anchors into the concrete on the board that's in the bottom, and then you just set nails into the board on the top, into the framing of the building. Now with me doing it this way, again I'm a little overkill. I actually put nails in the boards that are against the 4x6 and the 6x6 posts. I put nails in the upper half, and I'm also going to be putting at least one, if not two, anchors into the concrete on the bottom as well. Now, the reason that I decided to bring it flush out to the end of the 4x6 is because where I live, which is in Michigan, it's a very cold climate. Now, with that being said, I wanted to get the maximum amount of insulation as I can to fill into this wall. So now with me studying this out, even though there's nothing behind this, and like I said, you could actually frame this as a 2x6 wall if you wanted to. But the reason that I've done this is I want to use an R19 insulation, which is what you would use in a 2x6 wall. But the nice thing with me doing this, and mind you, I also went 16 inches on center, and the reason that I went 16 inches on center is being that I'm going to be using this space as my Lego studio. I'm going to be hanging a lot of things on the walls, and I wanted to have enough studs to be able to grab onto and anchor things as I want to hang them on the wall. But you can put your studs on 24 inches on center. That's perfectly allowable. It's within the building code. Being that it's inside a pole barn, I don't even think you have to be on 24 inches on center. But if you're going to drywall, you have to do 24 inches on center maximum. I recommend 16 on center for drywall. And I do intend on drywalling the interior of this building. But back to the insulation that I wanted to talk about. With this being the 2x4s, and me using the R19, once I put the R19 insulation in there, it's fine to have this gap between the wall that you have there, because once you put the R19 insulation up there, it's going to expand and come out, and what will end up happening is it'll expand and it'll fill this crevice behind this board. So again, it's going to give me a really good R value. The minimum level of R value for here in Michigan, I do believe, is R11. I would really recommend never going below an R13, but like I said again, because this is going to be my workshop and it's going to be a heated space, I'm going with R19, and that's why I studded the walls up as far as I could. Now another option that you can actually do to finish the interior of your pole barn, and this option would be if you're going to go with the R11 or R13. As you can see here, I already have a couple studs kind of standing up. Let me get this one out of the way. And what I've done is I just stood the studs up, put a baseboard down, and I'm not going to anchor this way, but I did this as an example. Put your board down at the base, and of course you're going to put a couple anchors to hold that board down. And now as you see up here, you got your double header. Now with that double header being the way it is, what you can do is you can tuck your 2x4 up in between that double header, and then now you can actually nail to each one of these purlins that are on the exterior of the wall, and that's really going to make for a super rigid wall. As far as structural building, that's probably going to be the strongest way you can do it. As a matter of fact, if you really wanted it to be strong, again, I did 2x4s over here. You could just do 2x6, just like I did here, and then anchor that to the purlins on the exterior as well, and that will give you an insanely strong building. But again, I'm not worried about strength because the building itself is already structurally sound. And the reason I'm holding this little guy in my hand, what this is a 15-30 seconds piece of plywood. It's actually OSB. But what you would do if you did this particular method here is you would have to shim the top of each one of these with these little shims that you'd have to make yourself, and then you can just shoot your nail right through the header plate. And again, it'll give you a really nice finish. And what's really cool about it, if you were to do this particular method, is each one of your posts are going to be sticking out 1.5 inches. Like this post here, you see how it's flush? This post would actually be sticking out of the wall 1.5 inches. Now, if you were building this to be just like a regular workshop and you wanted it to be decorative, it would be really cool, because what you do is you actually, once you frame it in like this 1.5 inches to stay exposed, you're going to put your 1/2 inch drywall if you want to use drywall, or you could use 1/2 inch plywood as a matter of fact, and cover that up. And then you can paint or stain or whatever you want to do the posts that's exposed. And it would give you more of a post-frame construction look or a log cabin look on the interior of the building if you went with that route. So that's another really cool way to do it. But again, the downside to doing it that particular way is you're only going to be studded up and framed for doing an R13 or 11 insulation. And like I said, you really, for the climate that I live in, I would rather have the R19. Something else while I'm talking about insulation, let me discuss that again. When you buy insulation, you can buy what they call not vapor wrap, but faced and non-faced. A non-faced insulation means you don't have that paper backside on it if you're buying it by the rolls. If you're buying it by the bat, it's usually just like a big square, like 4x4, I think is what the bats come in. But the bats, taking me back to the methods of the walls again, if you were going to do a bat method, you would want to do purlins on the inside of the wall like you see there. Then you would put that in front of your stud, just like that, and you can run them all the way down through the interior of the building, and you can put your finished wall on the inside on those as well. But now you're going to have to use the batting insulation. And what the batting is like I said, it's a 4x4 square, and you would stuff that down in between your two sets of purlins, and then you would nail it every so often to the purlin. And that'll fill that cavity up in the wall. To me, you're actually losing an extra 1.5 inches of space by doing it that way, because you're putting the 2x4s on the exterior of the wall as well. And then usually the bats, I don't believe, come face. That's where the downside is with the batting. So what you would end up having to do is you would put all your batting in the wall, anchor it, put your plastic up, or whatever you're going to use for a vapor barrier, then put your purlins on, and then you can put your finished wall on. Because that's the biggest thing you have to remember when it comes to insulating the building, that you have to have the vapor barrier. So now the way that I'm going to do it, I'm going to be buying the rolls. And with the roll insulation, again, you can buy faced and unfaced. You want to buy faced. And what the faced is the roll of insulation will have that paper back to it. And that paper back is what you're going to staple to the 2x4s as you roll it out. Now, the purpose of that paper back on that insulation is to provide you with that vapor barrier without you having to run plastic and everything all over the place. And to me, I find it easier anyway if you're not going to do the spray-in insulation or whatever, but you can also do spray-in insulation, which is probably the easiest way to go. But I generally prefer the roll insulation because to me it's actually a little easier to work with, because I'm doing everything myself and I'm trying to keep my costs down. So even though the spray-in insulation is actually better, to me the return on investment is quicker with the roll insulation as opposed to the spray-in insulation. But anyway, back to what I was discussing on the insulation, the insulation. The face pieces is what you got to have, and the reason you got to have the facing is because there's got to be a vapor barrier between your insulation and the heated space of the building. So anytime you're installing insulation, you always have to keep your paper to the interior space of the house, or the heated space of the building that you're going to be insulating. So keep that in mind when installing insulation, that you want all the paper to face the heated, depending on your climate, or the cooled space. But again, I just wanted to discuss, because like I said, I've never seen anybody discuss every actual method of doing it. It's just you see a video and it's here's how I've done it, and this is it, and this is what I did. Now, the way that I'm doing it, and even that way, you don't have to use drywall. You could actually use a combination of drywall and wood, or you could just use wood. As a matter of fact, they sell OSB in 4x10 sheets. So if you wanted to finish your walls this way with the R19 insulation, you can actually buy our OSB boards, because my ceilings are 10 feet in height. You can actually buy 4x10 sheets of OSB and just slap them up. Just like you can buy 4x10 sheets of panel or drywall and just slap them up. What I'm probably going to be doing in this particular building is I'm looking at possibly running a 1x12 board along the base. And the reason that I'm wanting to do that is this is still a pole barn, even though you can build it and make it basically livable as a house, but it's not going to be a house, it's going to be my hobby space. And in case I ever have a roof leak or something happens and water gets in here, I don't want the drywall to get moist. So what I'm probably going to do is put a 1x12 along the baseboard here. As a matter of fact, I have a 1x12 that I already had scrap of. So now you can take your 1x12 and you got to make sure you buy 1/2 inch. The drywall I'll be putting up is 1/2 inch as well. So you can put that board down on the base. You can put your 2 sheets of what I'm going to be using is 4x16 because I want the least amount of seams as possible to mud. And then you can put another 1x12 up on the top as a finish board. And then what I'm going to be doing on the ceiling is the same steel that you see on the exterior of the building is what's going to be on my ceiling. But the difference is the ceiling is going to be white. And the reason I'm doing that is it's quick and easy to do. You could physically drywall this if you wanted, but my ceiling joists are on 4 foot on center. So if I was going to drywall that, I would have to run a joist down the center of each one of these beams above me, so that way I had the 2 foot on center for the drywall. And that's why I'm probably just going to go with the steel. It's quicker, it's easier, it's cheaper, and I don't have to provide any more structural support in order to do that. Anyway, I hope I've covered and answered any and everybody's questions on different and various ways to finish the interior of a pole barn. If I haven't touched or finished on that, please feel free to let me know in the comments below, and I also have my email in the comments below there as well. And as always, thank you for coming to Bevan's Builds. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share below. And if you like Lego, go check out my other channel, which is Bevan's Bricks. And we'll see you next time on Bevan's Bricks.